The Grand Canal today is one of China's greatest treasures. I chose this topic because it seemed interesting and because it looked like it had a lot of interesting background to it. After 107 years of inactivity, boats began to sail again on the Grand Canal. The Grand Canal is also known as the Beijing-Hangzhou Grand Canal. The total length of the Grand Canal is roughly 1,770 kilometers, which is also 1,114 miles. It is the oldest and longest man-made canal in China. Many sources believe it to be the longest in the world. Starting at Beijing, it passes through Tianjin and the provinces of Hebei, Shandong, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang to the city of Hangzhou. The oldest parts of the canal date back to the 5th century BC, although the various sections were finally combined into one during the Sui dynasty. In Tianjin, the canal heads northwest towards Tongjiao. It is here that the modern canal stops and that the Grand Canal Cultural Park has been built. During the Yuan dynasty, a further canal, the Tonghui River, connected Tongjiao with a wharf called the Hoha in central Beijing. In the Min and Qing dynasties, however, the water level in the Tonghua River dropped and it was impossible for ships to travel from Tonghua to Beijing. Tongzhou became the north shipping terminus of the canal. Some parts of the canal had existed since 5th century BC, long before the Sui dynasty. However, only during the Sui dynasty were these parts combined to form the longest canal in the world. The Grand Canal allowed China's agriculture to expand away from the Yellow River, a historic farming center, though its primary purpose was transport, particularly bringing grain from other fertile regions of the country to the capital. Because of this, incomprehensible amounts of grain were transported through this canal, reaching almost 150 million kilograms of grain in this 8th century. Historically, periodic flooding of the adjacent Yellow River threatened the safety and functioning of the canal. During wartime, high dikes of the Yellow River were sometimes deliberately broken in order to flood advancing enemy troops. This caused disaster and prolonged economic hardships. Despite temporary periods of desolation and disuse, the Grand Canal furthered an indigenous and growing economic market in China's urban centers through all the ages since the Sui period. The section of the Grand Canal we see today in Zhejiang and southern Jiangsu provinces were in large part of creation of the Sui dynasty, reigning from 581 to 618 AD, a result of the migration of China's core economic and agricultural region away from the Yellow River Valley in the north and towards the southern provinces. Its main role throughout its history was the transport of grain to the capital. The institution of the Grand Canal by this way also obviated the need for the army to become self-sufficient farmers while posted at the northern frontier, as food supplies could now easily be shipped from south to north over the pass. The locks that allow it to function were invented in China more than 300 years before they were invented in Europe. This also shows us how technologically advanced China was at the time. A pound lock is a type of lock that is used almost exclusively nowadays on canals and rivers. A pound lock is a chamber, which is the pound part of it, which gates at both ends that controls the level of water in the pound. In contrast, an earlier design with a single gate was known as flash lock. Pound locks were used in ancient China during the Song dynasty, having been pioneered by the government official and engineer Qiao Weiyou in 984 AD. It replaced earlier double slipways that had caused trouble and are mentioned by the Chinese polymath Shen Kuo in his book Dream Pool Essays, and fully described in the Chinese historical text Song Shi. The distance between the two locks was rather more than 50 paces, and the whole space was covered with a great roof-like shed. The gates were hanging gates. When they were closed, the water accumulated like a tide until the required level was reached, and then when the time came, it was allowed to flow out. The water level could differ by 4 or 5 feet at each lock, and in the Grand Canal, the level was raised in this way, 138 feet, or 42 meters. The Grand Canal is still a big part of Chinese history today. Although some people might disregard it because it is a man-made river, I believe they are wrong to do that. A lot of things are man-made today, and most of them are amazing. Nothing comes close to the marvel of such a sight. I truly hope I get to visit such a place one day.